Victor Hugo. He was a famous author and poet. He was born on February 26, 1802, in Pissenc in France. His father's name was Joseph Leopold Sigisbert Hugo, and mother's name was Sophie Trebuchet. His father was a free-thinking Republican, and his mother was a devoted Catholic royalist. His father's job required him to move constantly, from one place to another. Traveling with his father to different countries, young Hugo developed a liking for nature and beauty. By 1803, his mother was exhausted of traveling and decided to stay back in Paris while his father went to Italy. She took up the responsibility of Victor's education and successfully imbibed in him the Catholic faith. In 1822, at the age of 20, his first volume of poetry, Odes et Poésies diverses, was published, which established his reputation as a poet and earned him a royal pension from Louis XVIII. 4 years later, his second collection of poetry, Odes et Ballades, strengthened his reputation further. Meanwhile, his first novel, Handelsland, was published in 1823, followed by his second novel, Bug-Jargel, published in 1826. From 1829 to 1840, he published 5 collections of poetry. In 1829, he also published a fiction, Le Dernier, jour, condamné, his first mature work. His first full-length book was Notre-Dame de Paris, published in 1831. It was immensely successful and was promptly translated to a number of foreign languages. Around 1830, he embarked on writing the most important novel of his literary career, Les Miserables. After several years of writing, followed by planned marketing campaigns by the Belgian publishing house Lacroix and Verbeek, the novel was finally published in 1862. In 1841, after 3 futile attempts, he was elected to the Académie française. Thereafter, he became more and more involved in French politics, supporting the Republic form of government. King Louis Philippe promoted him and made him a part of the higher chamber as a pair de France. After the Revolution of 1848 and the establishment of the Second Republic, he was elected to the Parliament as a conservative. A few years later, when Napoleon III seized power in 1851 and established an anti-parliamentary constitution, he objected openly, calling him a traitor. As a result, he was exiled. He settled in Guernsey and lived there until 1870. During his exile, he published 2 famous political pamphlets against Napoleon III, Napoleon le Petit and Histoire d'un crime. Although the pamphlets were banned in France, they managed to create a strong impact there nonetheless. In 1859, when amnesty was granted to all political exiles by Napoleon III, he chose not to return to France and imposed upon himself a self-exile. He was determined to return only when the Napoleon dynasty was removed from power. Meanwhile, on the literary front, he published his next novel, Les Travailleurs de l'amour, in 1866. The success of his previous novel, Les Miserables, ensured that Les Travailleurs de l'amour was also a success. With his next novel, L'homme quirit, he again returned to social issues. The book, published in 1869, depicted a critical image of the upper class. After the fall of Napoleon III and the establishment of the Third Republic in France, Victor Hugo returned to his country in 1870 and was soon appointed to the National Assembly and the Senate. He also became a founding member of the Association Littéraire et Artistique Internationale. 2 years later, in 1872, he lost the National Assembly election. The writings of his last few years were murky, highlighting themes like God, Satan, and death. His last novel, Quatrain Treatise, 93, was published in 1874. He got secretly engaged to his childhood sweetheart Adele Foucher and married her later in 1822. In 1878, he began suffering from cerebral congestion. On 22 May 1885, at the age of 83, Victor Hugo breathed his last. "Laughter is the sun that drives winter from the human face," said Victor Hugo.